All right. Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Amy Jewett, and I am the Senior Coordinator for the Pennsylvania iMapInvasives program at the Western Pennsylvania Conservancy and Pennsylvania Natural Heritage Program. Today's webinar will provide an overview and details on how to participate in the Basketgrass Bonanza. This event will encourage natural resource professionals and the public to get outside during the month of August, search for and report their findings of wavyleaf basketgrass, a Pennsylvania noxious weed with an active eradication program in place. Surveys are encouraged to occur in natural areas such as parks and forests anywhere in Pennsylvania. Today, I'm very pleased to be joined by Corinne Garda, the Pennsylvania iMapInvasives Information Assistant. Corinne is a graduate from Chatham University, where she majored in environmental science and also studied sustainable natural resources. She joined the Pennsylvania iMapInvasives program in March of this year and will be giving today's presentation. I'm also excited to have with us today three guest speakers who will share their knowledge and expertise on the topic of wavyleaf basketgrass, its impacts on the Commonwealth, and current research efforts. Our speakers today include Ben Mummert, invasive plant ecologist with the Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, Trilby Liphart, botany and weed specialist with the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture, and Dr. Carrie Wu, professor of biology and coordinator of the Environmental Studies program at the University of Richmond. Please note that this webinar will be recorded and later posted to the Pennsylvania iMapInvasives YouTube channel. The recording will also be sent via email to all webinar registrants. Additionally, a link to the story map that's used during today's presentation will be included in the email to all registrants and listed in the description of the webinar recording on YouTube. If you have any questions during today's presentation, please use the Q&A feature that's available in the webinar. Questions will then either be answered during the webinar or at the conclusion of today's presentation. And then without further ado, I will turn things over to Corinne to begin today's presentation.
Awesome. Thanks, Amy, for that introduction. And hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Once again, my name is Corinne Garda, and I'm the Information Assistant for the PA iMapInvasives program. And let's just jump right into the Basketgrass Bonanza. So I'm going to share my screen. Let's see here. Perfect. All right. Can everyone see that okay?
Yes, Corinne is there.
Okay, great. So let's get started. So of course, the PA iMapInvasives program is pleased to be hosting this new event called the Basketgrass Bonanza, which will take place from August 1st to August 31st, 2026. This community science event encourages individuals of various ages and botanical skill levels to get outdoors and survey for an invasive species, wavyleaf basketgrass, anywhere in Pennsylvania. Participant findings, including both presence and not detected information, will be captured in iMapInvasives and can be reported via the iMapInvasives mobile app, online database, or Survey 123 app. All occurrences of wavyleaf basketgrass are currently being targeted for eradication by the Commonwealth, so each and every report is vital to accomplishing this goal. Therefore, anyone with an interest in the bonanza is invited to participate. So let's get started with some background here. Wavyleaf basketgrass is an introduced trailing perennial grass that is rapidly spreading throughout the mid-Atlantic U.S. First discovered in Pennsylvania nearly 10 years ago, the Commonwealth currently lists the species as a Class A noxious weed. This designation means that the species cannot be sold, transported, planted, or propagated in Pennsylvania, and it is intended to be eradicated. So as it grows, wavyleaf basketgrass forms dense, continuous mats that result in the suppression of native herbs, shrubs, and tree seedlings. By decreasing plant diversity, the species provides very little wildlife value. Wavyleaf basketgrass is also shade tolerant and fast growing, creating ecological and management challenges. And in this image here, you can see the sort of thicket that wavyleaf basketgrass creates on the forest floor. The rapid spread of wavyleaf basketgrass is facilitated by rhizomes and seeds. Their many seeds include sticky awns, which appear as long pointed bristles, which allow easy spread to new areas via attachment to fur, clothing, boots, and more. Recreational activities such as horseback riding and disc golf further encourage seed spread. Once distributed, seeds form new dense carpets through creeping above ground roots called stolons. And here you can see how seeds are transported unintentionally when they attach to pets. So it's a very cute photo, but it is unfortunate that this is a very common method of spread for this species. So if you'd like to determine if a specimen is wavyleaf basketgrass, you can look for a low-lying grass. This perennial grass branches and roots at nodes along creeping stems or stolons, which range from 8 to 18 inches tall. They have flat, dark green leaves. These are lanceolate or ovate shaped, and they're about 0.5 to 1 inch wide and 1.5 to 4 inches long, with rippling waves across the entire surface, hence the name wavy leaf. And these waves run perpendicular to the midrib. The leaf sheaths and stems also have short hairs that are roughly 0.25 centimeters long. And lastly, each year, this plant blooms and sets seed between mid-August to November. Flowering spikelets have long awns that secrete a sticky substance for seed dispersal. So deer tongue is a native grass that has a similar elongated leaf shape to wavyleaf basketgrass, and so they may be confused. However, deer tongue leaves clasp at the stem, and they do not have ripples. Unlike wavyleaf basketgrass, deer tongue stems are rigid and hairless, and the plant stands typically around 3.5 to 4.5 feet tall. This species has panicle inflorescence, as you can see here, and it's comprised of individual spikelets and does not contain awns. Additionally, deer tongue is only semi-shade tolerant, so it is unlikely to establish in the same habitat as wavyleaf basketgrass. And in both of these images here, you can see how the deer tongue leaves clasp around the stem, which is something that wavyleaf basketgrass leaves do not do. Japanese stiltgrass is another invasive grass that may be confused for wavyleaf basketgrass. However, this species can be differentiated by its smooth leaf blades, each with a silver-colored line of hairs down the midrib. Its stems and leaf sheaths are hairless, and it is an annual plant that can grow to 3 feet tall, although its stems often bend to the ground. Flattened trapezoid-shaped flowers occur on spikes and produce one-seeded dry fruits, as you can see in this image here. And in the image on the left, you can see that very distinct silver line going down the midrib of the leaf. So as for habitat, wavyleaf basketgrass prefers moist, shaded environments, areas typically found in the understory of mesic deciduous forests. While it does not do well in sunny habitats, this species is occasionally found in semi-shaded areas such as trail edges. It has also been spotted growing beneath Japanese stiltgrass in these environments, which is why it's so important to be able to distinguish between the two, since they are lookalikes. So if you have wavyleaf basketgrass on your property, first, please report it to iMapInvasives. An administrator will forward your report to the PA Department of Agriculture and the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources. Then you will be contacted with the appropriate management actions. In the meantime, consider incorporating one or more of the following native species on your property, each of which provide beauty and wildlife value to the landscape. So first, we have bottlebrush grass. Bottlebrush grass has a similar bristle-like inflorescence and grows in part sun to high shade. Sorry, we're glitching a little bit over here. Give me one moment. Seems like my screen is stuck here, unfortunately.
Corinne, I can start sharing my screen if you want.
Okay, sounds good. Sorry for the delay, everyone.
All right, let me
Thanks,
get down
Amy.
to where you are. No worries at all. Okay, go ahead. You want me to click on the bottom?
Yes, please. Thank
Okay,
you.
there we go.
All right. So bottlebrush grass, as I said, has similar bristle-like inflorescence and grows in part sun to high shade. Wild ginger can be used as a native ground cover in moist, shaded environments. And that's pictured here. We also have foam flower. This is a running plant that prefers moist woodland habitats. And lastly, Pennsylvania sedge and other native true sedges provide lush, tufted grass cover. So these are all great native alternatives to wavy leaf basket grass. Wavy leaf basket grass was first discovered in Maryland and has since been detected in various mid-Atlantic states. And just an important note here that I guess it looks like the wrong map is up here too. So sorry about that. We can continue on to the next slide. So in Pennsylvania, the species has been detected in less than 1/3 of the counties, deeming it an emerging invasive species in the state. And you can feel free to zoom into this map to see if the species is currently present or has been spotted in your county. So for further identification tips for wavy leaf basket grass, you can check out the links here. You will have access to the story map at the end of the webinar, so feel free to click on them. But these links take you to PA iMapInvasives, Penn State Extension, Pennsylvania DCNR, and Western New York PRISM. And if you have any questions about the species, please feel free to reach out to us at PA iMapInvasives or any of the guest speakers that we'll have joining us today. So now we're going to move on to how to actually report your findings. So participants of the Basketgrass Bonanza can increase the amount of wavy leaf basketgrass data available in iMapInvasives. In turn, this helps to visualize a thorough picture of local and statewide distributions of wavy leaf in Pennsylvania. It aids natural resource professionals in prioritizing management efforts where observations are made, and informs land managers of new reports which require quick management. By taking part in this event, participants can develop an ability to recognize wavy leaf basketgrass in Pennsylvania's natural areas and assist with efforts to prevent it from becoming further established. So step 1, you'll want to request an iMapInvasives account. So you can first visit paimapinvasives.org, which is linked right there. You can click register at the top of the page and then complete the sign up form. Afterwards, you will receive an email confirming the creation of your new account. And if you do already have an account, you can skip this step. Step 2, you'll want to join the project. So after you create your account or log into your account, you can log into iMapInvasives and request to join the project. So an administrator will approve your request, after which you'll be notified via email. And once you're part of this project, you can begin your surveys. And right here, we just have some step-by-steps on how to do it. So you can log in online and select projects from the main menu. Then you can use the search box to find Basketgrass Bonanza 2026 for a project. And then at the top right, you'll click Request to Join Project and then await a notification email from an IMAP administrator. And just a note here, if you are an existing IMAP user, you may have already been added to the Basketgrass Bonanza project by an administrator. So to find out, access the project's profile page in the online database and check the membership list. Step 3, you'll want to actually record your data in iMapInvasives. So participants should report their survey findings to IMAP in the form of presence and not detected findings. Submissions can be made using a mobile device, laptop, or desktop computer. All presence reports must include at least one photo of the observed species, preferably taken up close. And here you can see the comparison between the 3 different IMAP applications, so feel free to choose whatever options work best for you. And here we have multiple video tutorials that you can watch at your own convenience to learn how to submit your findings wavy leaf basketgrass to IMAP. So photography is very important to our program. When photographing your wavy leaf basketgrass findings, remember the following tips. First, you'll want to get up close. Stand near the species you're observing and take an up-close image of it. Avoid taking photos from a distance. You'll want to ensure that your images are crisp and clear, and avoid taking photos that are blurry. You want to ensure your camera is focused on the target species directly in front of you, not on the vegetation in the background. And also, you want to capture distinguishing characteristics. This helps expert reviewers in verifying its identification and differentiating it from potential lookalikes. And showing scale is an optional step, but it is helpful. If desired, you can include an item in your image that helps show the size of the observed species. This can include your hand, a coin, or a ruler. And here's just an image showing what that might look like. So at the end of the event, 3 lucky participants will be selected as the winners. So these winners will receive a prize package of an invasive species field guide and a Basketgrass Bonanza swag item. To qualify as a prize winner, you must first get outside during the month of August and search in Pennsylvania's natural areas for wavyleaf basketgrass. This includes in parks, forests, game lands, etc. Based on your findings, you'll want to report at least one presence or not detected record for wavyleaf basketgrass to iMapInvasives. And during your reporting process to IMAP, you'll want to tag each presence or not detected record to the Basketgrass Bonanza 2026 project. And participants can qualify as prize winners even if they do not observe wavyleaf basketgrass and only report not detected data. So regardless of what you find, as long as you report, you'll be eligible to win your prize. And winners will be randomly selected on September 30th, 2026, and notified via email by an IMAP administrator. All right, so before we get into frequently asked questions, we're going to jump over to the presentations from our 3 guest speakers. And Amy, I can try to take control here again to share my screen with the presentations. Hopefully that works. All right. It's good? All right. Perfect. So starting off, we have Ben Mummert from the PA Department of Conservation and Natural Resources.
Self off mute. Great. I'm Ben Mummert. I'm forest health ecologist with DCNR Bureau of Forestry. I'm an invasive plant specialist in that division of forest health. When wavyleaf was first found in Pennsylvania, it was found on DCNR lands. We have almost 2.5 million acres when you count state forest land with state park land. I'm responsible for that, but beyond that, I'm responsible for connecting with a lot of Pennsylvanians. Pennsylvania has 13 million people moving across 30 million acres. Every one of us can move an invasive species, or we can help to prevent its movement. So prevention is key, but I have a great deal of work ahead of me to connect with 13 million people. That's a job that we want to involve, marketing specialists on. As more of a ground pounder and an ecologist myself, it's really nice to speak with you today. The story's still being written, but this will be a contest between vectors and suppressors. Which side of that dynamic do you find yourself on? Right? Wavyleaf basketgrass has its vectors, but Pennsylvania has its suppressors too. People who recognize, report, and respond, and then return to look again. So the people participating in iMapInvasives form something very specialized, a statewide network of trained eyes. I want to focus on the support that we all share in early detection and rapid response, because together we function something like a statewide immune system. Next slide. Is it advancing to the next slide?
Yes, I think you have some photos in here. You want me to keep going through these?
Okay, I guess I'm just seeing a different view, but if we're on slide number 2, the purpose of that system isn't simply to kill an unfamiliar grass, it's to keep communities intact. This photo was taken at Gifford-Pinchot State Park, and it used to be an understory of wild ginger and bottlebrush grass, as well as cohosh and a state-threatened skullcap. Native plants sharing space in a complex woodland community at Gifford-Pinchot State Park. So wavy leaf is not just another weed of roadsides and disturbed ground. It can enter some of the shaded, moist, biologically rich forests that we most value and want to protect, squeezing its way in. Next slide. And the challenge is that an invasion doesn't announce itself. It begins as something small, perhaps one unfamiliar grass among many familiar plants. And that's why the ability to notice that something doesn't quite belong is so valuable. I want to help strengthen one of the most important tools that you have today, your search image. And as you can notice, especially when it's wet, those waves on the leaves really show up. We can move to the next slide. At first, it can look just like an unfamiliar grass mixed into the forest floor, but it doesn't stay subtle and under the right conditions becomes the carpet. In our next photo, you see that it can be variable, and in more light, it may look stressed, lankier, more open, less like the classic textbook image. Okay, next slide is a photo that my wife Kelsey took, the first wavy leaf basket grass that she ever saw in person. She noticed the stilt grass, and of course you notice that something doesn't look familiar next to it. That's how detection starts, not with certainty, but with curiosity. Our next slide reinforces that wavy leaf has weaknesses. This is several days after a patch of wavy leaf was found alongside a trail in Cadora State Park and treated. Like any plant, it has its talents. We'll talk about its seeds coated in glue, but it is mortal. So suppression is possible, and early detection really matters to limiting direct harm and also to getting our forests back on track. Next slide. We all know the basic definition: non-native, aggressive, spreading, displacing native vegetation, and persisting long-term. The important point is invasive species infestations aren't just plant problems. They're biodiversity problems, recreation problems, forest health problems, and long-term stewardship challenges. The next slide. DCNR tracks a long list of invasive plants, and wavy leaf is near the top as a watch list species. Many of those plants are already widespread. Wavy leaf basket grass is different because we aren't only reacting. We may still be able to shape outcomes, especially for the next generation. That's why we want to watch out for wavy leaf basket grass and find it before it really develops into infestations. Next slide. It's a test for our time. Most invasive plant problems are ones that we inherited, and autumn olive or Japanese barberry come to mind, things that we intentionally spread. Those were decisions made before most of us had any say. Wavy leaf basket grass is different, and future Pennsylvanians will inherit the consequences of what we do. We aren't intentionally spreading wavy leaf basket grass, but wavy leaf basket grass isn't necessarily our enemy here. Instead, again, it's a contest between the things that we, for the most part, do to spread this Class A noxious weed, and the things that we do to find it where it has appeared and to suppress those satellite infestations before they, again, disperse. Those will dramatically shape how fast this population actually establishes across practically any part of Pennsylvania. It could be found, depending on how fast we move it. Next slide. So the rate comes down to a balance between vectors and suppressors. It has that remarkable talent to spread sticky seeds. They cling to animals. This is Dr. Vanessa Beauchamp's dog, as I understand. She was doing research on wavy leaf, sent her lab out through it, and it's easy to see how dogs off trail on a walk can pick up wavy leaf and take it, several hundred yards or maybe miles away to another site. And that's a real concern if this spreads to game lands, for example, where we have sporting dogs and have seen arthraxin spread in much the same way. Next slide. So it has an effective dispersal network, and we humans are the backbone of it. We and our animals and our equipment. Our dream is to build a detection and suppression network that can outrun it. It was found in Maryland in 1996, in Pennsylvania in 2017 in a disc golf course at Cadora State Park. We don't know exactly how it first arrived, but we do see time and again that long distance spread has followed recreation, at least so far. Disc golf, folks drop their bags into the nice fluffy wavy leaf basket grass, pick them up and take those sneakers or bags to another site miles away sometimes where a new infestation establishes. Trilby and I were out climbing around rocks at Governor Dick where crash pads have picked up seed and moved it from one climbing destination to another. It all matters because parks are places that people love. And they're also then hotspot stations that seeds can depart, and disperse from for new destinations. Next slide. Pennsylvania starts 30 years smarter, and that's why I see this map as hopeful. The folks to the south of the Mason-Dixon line, it has spread this much over 30 years, but we start 30 years smarter and better equipped with not only technologies, but networks like iMapInvasives. Next slide. If we were just to zoom into the north, here are Pennsylvania records, and every orange point's not just a plant or infestation, but someone recognizing, reporting, and then basically responding to infestations. It's a moment that a person noticed something and then reported it. So that intelligence became available to everyone and actionable on the part of DCNR. Next slide. Here's what we've done to act on that information. We've been working alongside Trilby in each of those places practically that wavy leaf was noticed at least last year. And I'll acknowledge that Cadora State Park is still a challenge, as is Pinchot to its north. Lancaster parks, not just state parks, but we're working in some other public parks. And then to the north, and the very northernmost infestation has recently been identified and started to be addressed in Bald Eagle State Park. But across the south, we also have Falling Water and Ohio Pile. We have the Mid-State Trail. We have Pine Grove Furnace State Park and Gettysburg, the battlefields. We have done a lot of work and are out about half a dozen days each month with crews of about a dozen people trying to address these. Next slide. And so I would say, when you do go out looking for wavy leaf basket grass, look in places that are rich, productive woods and places that people want to be, because it's likely there, unfortunately, that folks will spread it. This is what our work looks like once wavy leaf has been addressed on the disc golf course, and now we're chasing it back into deer bedding areas at Gifford-Pinchot State Park. Here we're leveraging technology with iMapInvasives to document each place that we spray wavy leaf, and then to return to those sites, to remember where they were and to address any reemergence from the seed bank. Next slide. This was a report from Bald Eagle State Park. Next slide. We heard about some residue, and lo and behold, we found several patches the size of pickleball courts. Not too late, still well worth addressing. Next slide. Notably, you can see those areas that are kind of hazed out are places that still need searched at Bald Eagle State Park. But there's the original identification, and there's the much larger patch that we found, maybe 2 acres then that we suppressed. All those trails in Bald Eagle State Park should be walked with a keen eye for wavy leaf basket grass. Next slide. So invasive plant management is largely an intelligence problem. What we need most are folks to go out to find it so that we can, in turn, go out and address it. On the horizon are promising technologies, which may offer something like a vaccine long-term. But I worry, what happens when a native seed bank for ginger and bottlebrush grass has been smothered for 30 years? How can that forest really recover? And so I think those technologies on the horizon mean that it's all the more important we do things now in hopes of buying time. Next slide. The physical reality of this response is that it's difficult work. It's hot and thorny. Some folks like me really do love it. We leverage the latest technologies and equipment, and we welcome folks increasingly to join us, including volunteers who we'd like to qualify as applicators. What you don't see on my radio for coordinating with a dozen colleagues, and then my phone strapped to my wrist for iMapInvasives and ArcGIS quick capture. Next slide. So it begins with learning the plant. Next slide. And then folks who learn it can team up. And I love working shoulder to shoulder with folks who share the same vision. Next slide. Increasingly, we're fielding large crews, and I hope to incorporate volunteers, as I mentioned, with some paid help. Next slide. Sometimes it means crawling through multiflora rows, treating patches one at a time, as Ben Taylor is doing here. Next slide. But it's very gratifying, and at Pinchot State Park, we're incorporating these suppression efforts into ecological restoration efforts that will restore or reintroduce fire to reestablish some savanna and woodland communities that will be naturally more resilient, because mesification, making our forests basically more shady and moist, has certainly benefited or will benefit wavy leaf basket grass in a way that reintroducing fire can benefit our native plants and serve to its disadvantage. Next slide. So here is where we stand in the juxtaposed positions of threat and opportunity. Wavy leaf is flowering now, and it's very easy to see. It stands out, but of course those flowers will mature to seeds, around September, and it's a threat that we can move it from site to site. And so please be careful to clean all of your gear, but do go out, looking for wavy leaf basket grass. Here you can see the blue hue of some dye that we use for, carefully dispensing and applying herbicide. Next slide. With an herbicide treatment, as in the upper left, outside of our control to the lower right, we see very good control for adult plants. We can use a glyphosate product or potassium salt glyphosate that is rain fast in 30 minutes, get good control, and then come back in future years with a grass-specific herbicide that will suppress the redevelopment of that infestation while allowing, wild ginger, hopefully, and our other native flora to reestablish. The next slide. And so, success is maybe boring. In this photo, you can just make out the dried, withered, residue of a wavy leaf basket grass patch that was knee-high and, effectively suppressed any native plants. There's no dramatic moment here, but that's what we're aiming for. We'd like Pennsylvania, or large parts of it, not to become expanses of green shag carpet, but instead maintain a mosaic with tiles of native flora that make Penn's Woods what it is, instead of just a global kitchen sink of temperate adapted, species. So, is there one more slide? It's what I want to leave you with. There's work to be done, including in follow-up. But the first person to find new infestations probably won't be me, and it's likely to be someone on this call. Every iMapInvasives record becomes part of Pennsylvania's response. And today you'll hear from agriculture about wavy leaf as a noxious weed, and from Dr. Carrie Wu about the science. My message is simple. It's not just another invasive plant that we inherited. It's one that we still have time to influence. It has sticky seeds and human movement working for it, but Pennsylvania has people who recognize, report, and respond. So the future distribution of this plant depends on which of those networks proves stronger. And my goal is one where, in the long run, not all Pennsylvanians come to know and recognize wavy leaf basket grass, but just folks like you, and we can stay on top of this. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Ben. Now we're going to hop right over to Trilby Liphart from the PA Department of Agriculture. Oh, sorry, Trilby, I think you're still muted there.
Sorry about that. I'm happy to be here today to talk about a little bit about PDA's role in eradication efforts of wavyleaf basketgrass in the state. So next slide. So I started in 2015 with the state, and for probably I guess 2 years before that, going to conferences and local talks, we were hearing a lot about wavyleaf basketgrass, and we were ready for it to jump over the border. And in 2017, it did that in York County into a disc golf course. So for several years after that, that's where we were seeing wavy leaf basket grass showing up in disc golf courses, people moving it from place to place. Next slide. So when the control plant noxious weed law was updated in 2017. It had been wavy leaf basket grass had been discovered earlier in that year, so we were able to include that in the new law that was signed by Governor Wolf in 2017. And that became official in early 2018, so we were able to move forward with it as a Class A noxious weed immediately. Next slide. So it is listed as a Class A noxious weed. This is our most important list out of the control plant noxious weed list, as we are trying to prevent new infestations and eradicate those that, maybe we have a small population in one county. So really it gives us a chance to go after those concerning weeds and immediately and get some control. The PA Department of Agriculture Botany program does have 3 active programs where we go out, survey, and treat those active programs. One's giant hogweed, goats rue, and used to be kudzu, but we felt that wavy leaf basket grass was a higher priority at the time. So we have been working since 2017 to survey and try and get control of this weed. Next slide. So the early finds of wavy leaf basket grass, as I mentioned, they were found in disc golf courses, but there were also a few early ones that were found in non-disc golf courses. One was in a county park in York County in 2017, and it was found by an environmental worker for the park who found it along a trail. And another site was a roadside population discovered by a landowner walking her dogs, and she called me to say she thought she had found wavy leaf basket grass. And this is why citizen scientists and landowners and homeowners can contribute so much to our fight against noxious weeds. Just being informed, paying attention, and taking the time to report these weeds to DCNR or IMAPs or PA Department of Agriculture or another citizen scientist outlet can really help us in the long fight against these weeds. So as far as eradication of these, we have not eradicated these weeds yet, or these 2 sites yet. So next slide. Both sites I said were in York County. They were small when discovered. Both were less than 10 full plants, and once it was identified, we started control of the plants immediately. Both of these sites were removed by hand pulling, and unfortunately, we are still working on these sites. They are not eradicated at this point, and we don't have any site that was found since 2017 that has been eradicated. And I'll talk about that a little bit further in the presentation about why that is. So some of our questions are always like, how did these plants get here? So, you may find something in a place that you would never expect to find an invasive weed. The site on the in York County on the road was actually a dead-end road where there were very few homes. Um, it has spread a little bit now, but I just always wonder how those plants get to places like that. So, even if you're somewhere where you think, oh, this can't grow there, please take a picture of it and submit it, because you never know where these plants are going to show up. Next slide, please. So the county park site was already flowering since it was later in the season. So the scary thing about this is we have a time limit to get to these plants before they go to seed. So, fines when they're flowering really require immediate removal. But at the same time, you have to be careful that it's flowering and not actually gone to seed. Because even myself, I've made that mistake where I stepped into a wavy leaf basket grass site and it looked like it was flowering, but there were some sticky seeds on the awns. So we ended up with wavy leaf basket grass seeds on us that we had to pick off before we could move further, as we don't want to be the spread of this plant into other areas. So I can tell you that the glue really sticks. It can stick to rubber boots. It can stick to almost anything. And even after removing it, you'll still have sticky hands or sticky clothes. So it's meant to disperse to far areas. Next slide. I just wanted to show this picture because it does show how the plant really rambles. And having just removed some last week by hand pulling, you grab one of those ends that's kind of sticking up by itself on the edge, and you may, have a whole handful of plant just from pulling that one or two stems. So it does really ramble from like a mother plant, and it does kind of the stems kind of sit on top of the surface of the soil. It's not real difficult to hand pull, and we do get good control that way. It just depends, where the site is. And the site actually last week where we removed it on a homeowner's property, it actually was kind of moving itself along through the duff or the surface of decayed leaves that was on the ground. So it actually wasn't even in the ground at some places. Next slide. Next slide. Okay. So how do we manage wavy leaf basket? Oops. Is that, I have Ben up. Is the right slide up? Okay. How do we manage wavy leaf basket grass populations? So in our department, we use two methods of control. That would be spraying with an herbicide that targets grass or general use herbicide like Ben talked about, or hand pulling. And both methods have been very effective. I have also used like a large steel rake for like stream banks where it had grown over and I cannot access it to kind of pull the plants up, and that has worked very well too. But I only use that where I cannot get good coverage by hand pulling or spray. Next slide. And then, how do we manage it? Depends on where we're at. This is a site we did just last week, actually, and it was on a landowner's property where they were planting a lot of ferns and other perennials and native plants. So we felt a little leery about spraying. So in this case, we pulled 6 garbage bags of wavy leaf basket grass out of this site. It took us about 2 hours, but it is an effective way to do it. You just don't always want to do that on a large population, and it's not time. It can be time consuming. So it just depends where you're at, what method you're going to use. Next slide. As far as follow-up monitoring of wavy leaf basket grass populations. A lot of the sites we found initially, we're starting to see more seedlings growing there versus the larger plants. And the seedlings can be very small and very difficult to see, and you may not see that wave in the leaf. It may look more just like a straight leaf. So um, you have to kind of be aware that it usually just has the shape, but you'll start to notice it after a while. This is some seedlings I pulled out this spring next to a nickel, so you can see how small they are. But like I said, we're starting to see some of the seedlings more than the larger plants in some of these areas. Next slide. Um, it was believed that wavy-leaf basket grass was viable for about 3 to 5 years initially, but recent research, and Carrie was involved with this, has determined that the seed may be possibly sprouting for as long as 7 to 9 years. So this will definitely change our follow-up plans on how we visit sites. For some of our other active programs at the Department of Agriculture, we will visit a site, a recorded site every year until we no longer see it for 3 years, 3 consecutive years. So that's putting a lot of visits in our future, but we do what we need to do. And even if it's just running in no wavy leaf basket grass and running out again, it's important that we follow up on these sites. We don't want to or think we have it eradicated at a site and then leave it alone and come back to find, acres. So it's very important to follow up on the recorded sites that we have. Next slide. This is just a picture of some seedlings that I took again in the spring. And as Ben mentioned, you can kind of see even the seedlings, they do kind of show the wavy part of the leaf a little better when they're wet. Sometimes you have to move the leaves around a little bit, or whatever decaying matter is there. Sometimes they're underneath that. So if you've noticed, one or two little seedlings or adult plants, and there is a good layer of leaves there, it wouldn't hurt to take a stick and kind of move around a little bit and see if there's anything else growing under that layer. Next slide. So the important thing that I guess we've really gotten out of wavy leaf basket grass, and we were doing this a little bit before, was really working with our partners, DCNR, some of the county parks, and even homeowners, landowners, to really work forward to a common goal to eradicate wavy leaf basket grass. For the past 2 years, DCNR and I have worked pretty closely to, visit sites, do some eradication and surveys, even on non-park lands. Being the Department of Agriculture and a regulatory employee, I am covering the whole state. So I do have access to property that DCNR wouldn't have. So I appreciate everybody's help in trying to eradicate this. I think we're gonna get there and get it under control. I know sometimes, like the end of last year, I felt like we were gonna lose this battle, but I wake up the next day and I'm like, let's go get it. So I do appreciate everybody's involvement and working together, and your time and in reporting anything that you find. So thank you. Next slide. And if you have any questions about wavy leaf basket grass, or you need to contact the Department of Agriculture Botany Program, this is my contact information. And again, there's a little seedling. You can very, very, slightly see the waves on that seedling. So thank you again.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing all that info, Trilby. Lastly, we're going to move on to Dr. Carrie Wu from the University of Richmond.
All right. Thank you for having me. For the sake of time, I'm going to do the annoying thing of probably skipping through a lot of my slides so we don't have people having to stay around much longer and we have time for questions afterwards. So I'm going to kind of take a broader picture. So a lot of the foundation and the background has already been provided here, which is really great. So I'm at the University of Richmond, which is a undergraduate institution. So my lab is undergraduate powered, and I'm coming from the angle of being a plant evolutionary ecologist who's interested in how plant populations are responding to a changing environment. And so some of the questions that we're asking here with invasive species in new environments are also the same questions we're asking us with native species as they're responding to an environmental change or what they're encountering at their range limits. So this is really exciting because this bridges kind of more theoretical work as well as some applied work as well. So I'm going to give a brief overview of the several angles that we're taking with my research group on how to address the wavy leaf basketgrass invasion and what can we do from what we're learning to understand how to mitigate the continued range expansion like what's being experienced in Pennsylvania. Next slide, please. So we've referred to this idea of eradication versus containment. And so people will often talk about the invasion curve in invasive species biology. And with early detection, rapid response, or EDR, like Ben was talking about, we want to be at that left side of the curve. So when species are first introduced, can we detect them very early so we can prevent them from moving over to to the right side of that curve? The challenge is often when a species is newly introduced to a location, people don't know what to look for. And so public awareness doesn't begin towards until the middle part of that curve where containment is really difficult. So Pennsylvania is at this really great place where we have more public awareness in the mid-Atlantic region. So down here where I am in Virginia, we're probably going to be able to contain it. We're not going to be able to eradicate it. But at the range limits like Pennsylvania in the north, you may be at that stage where you've got that early detection and efforts can be applied to help eradicate it and help it from being established there. Next slide. So we've already kind of been introduced to wavy leaf range as a whole. So the slide that I have here, the map is a little dated. It was from 2003. I think we're back on Ben's slide. Oops. So again, wavy leaf was first detected in Maryland in about 1996. The first detection outside of the state was in Shenandoah National Park in Virginia. So one of the concerns is it, again, seems to be this through hiking plant, so it can be distributed pretty easily. Again, it's this rapidly spreading shade-tolerant perennial grass species, so it's a kind of a unique position. We tend not to see invasive grasses this deep into the forest understory. But once it gets established, it can be that kind of wall-to-wall understory grass. Next slide, please. So hopefully this animation works. We're lucky in that this is a relatively well-documented recent invasion. This map was put together by a student based on records on digitized herbarium locations. So you can see that as people start being more aware, we start seeing this almost explosion of locations. This could be a combination of people being more aware and looking for it, or it also could be this lag time where it's slowly starting to spread. Ben and Trilby have also talked about deceptive lookalikes. So there's a lot of curation that we need to do when we look at these records. So having good, confident identification is really important for this. Next slide, please. Again, there's lots of mechanisms of spread. The one that's the most concerned is on the right with C's with these really, really sticky awns. Again, dog pictures are great to show how this can be spread. It can also be spread by animals, or even that fist on the right, or sorry, on the very right is my hand when I was trying to do collections. So again, it's really easy to spread these seeds. Typically, they're ripe about mid-August to November again, but we're starting to see a phenological shift. So we're starting to see seeds down here at least that are spreading now, or they're spreading even into kind of as early as mid-June in some locations. So when you're out there, really be aware of what's going on. And to kind of mention, to follow up what Shelby was talking about, it's easy to get seeds on lots of things, but duct tape or lint rollers, like if you have a pet, those are really easy things to get that off of. So keeping extra duct tape in your car when you're going out and looking is a really helpful thing to do. Next slide, please. Again, we're starting to see some through hiking patterns here. So there's often distribution along recreational trails, along disc golf courses, as has been alluded to before. If we're looking around the range limit of wavy leaf, we often see evidence for dispersal by recreational routes. So disc golf courses, recreation areas, both on the northern range in Pennsylvania and out into out into West Virginia and North Carolina as well. Next slide, please. We've kind of gone over this already. Numerous organizations are finding that wavy leaf is very concerning throughout the mid-Atlantic because there's been a lot of habitat suitability models that are showing that it has a potential for pretty widespread dispersal. Next slide. So my undergraduate group has been partnering with a lot of regional organizations to try to understand the dynamics of this newly spreading invasion. We're taking multiple routes to understand this. So I'm going to just touch on those really quickly. First is to try to establish where the range edges are, because we can't be everywhere all at once. We can really rely on a lot of partners and community partners to help establish these range edges. But if we know where those limits are, we can be more strategic about where to focus the resources. We're trying to understand the physiological constraints on where these might be found. So if we can target where we're using our detection efforts, we're trying to establish landscape genetics so we can understand the invasion history and what those main mechanisms of spread are. And then we're also trying to look at the impacts of this invasion, since you do tend to see a different type of growth form. So you see this more solid monoculture of wavy leaf infestations, whether that's affecting the soil microbiome and whether that's a mechanism that helps facilitates its own invasion success. Next slide, please. So just briefly, again, why you are all here. It takes a village, right, to raise a child, but also to eradicate an invasion success too. So down here in Virginia, we've got a lot of networks where we're trying to partner with public and private organizations, similar to what's going on in Pennsylvania. So again, thank you for being here and helping understand where the invasion is along the northern front. Next slide, please. Another thing that we've been talking about a lot on this webinar is that it tends to be found in really deep shaded forest areas. So one of the projects that we first were involved in was with my undergraduate student, Dom Pham, who's now in a PhD program at UConn, to understand why it seems to be restricted to these shady environments. So first thing was to ask, at that early life stage, does germination require low light levels, or is there something else that's causing it to be restricted to this particular invasion? Next slide, please. So to cut to the chase, she found no. So we set up different light levels in our growth chamber down in the picture on the right. And we had 4 different shade levels grown in the same growth chamber. We had seeds collected from across 9 different years. And the main take home is that it doesn't care how bright it is or how shady it is, it's able to germinate. So that question 1, no, at least this early stage doesn't seem restricted by light levels. But the secondary thing that we were not expecting as much is like, there's a big drop down over seeds that are older than 7 years, but there's still non-zero germination at all light levels after that. So unexpectedly, seeds, like Trilby said, are viable for quite a long time. Next slide, please. So major key take-home points for that, seeds are viable for at least 9 or more years. We didn't like baby these seeds, they were just kept in bags at room temperature in the lab. So non-ideal seed storage conditions, but they're still there. So implications are that, yes, even though above ground removal is rarely effective, you could still have those seeds popping up in germination. So in the very top right picture there is a 1-year-old seedling. So they're really, really, really teeny. So you do need to have long-term monitoring after that above ground removal. Light intensity doesn't seem to restrict germination, so we could get that establishment in what are like non-typical environments. So we may be looking mostly in forest understories, but if you do get those seeds distributed to trail edges or more sunny conditions, keep an eye out. Like Tribley was saying, there may be sites that you might not think are typical, but you could get those long distance seed dispersal mechanisms there. So we're looking at whether other factors later in life could be affected by high light levels. So there could be competitive interactions. Maybe seeds can germinate at low light levels and high light levels, but the adults don't do so well. So we've got a number of projects going on with that. Next slide, please. All right. And so this is just giving an example of some of the projects where we're looking at vegetative stage, photosynthetic mechanisms, and other traits that might be affected by different light levels. Next slide. So we're also trying to leverage genetics to understand what routes of spread could be found across a landscape. Do we tend to see anthropogenic movements that seem to be facilitated by animals or other routes? Main challenge we've been finding is that wavyleaf is an octoploid, and basically think there's lots and lots and lots of alleles in there, so it makes the genetics a little more complicated. Some initial take-home messages is we do seem to have multiple routes of spread. So there seem to be some along the AT. We tend to see some more coastal routes, but we're still in the early stages of that. Next slide. But we are trying a couple different routes of looking at this. And so we have this new next generation sequencing, basically another way to try to understand landscape spread. And we've also expanded our sampling here. So we do have some populations up in Pennsylvania now. We have some down near Asheville, North Carolina. New River Gorge State Park was detected a year ago. So we really have all of our range limits included in this. And we're also trying to get a better understanding of where this invasion originated. So as Ben said, there are some implications that they came from the Ural Mountains, but we don't have any data that really solidify that. So for proof of concept, we're collecting populations from around the native range worldwide with collaborators. We're just at a proof of principle right now that there are some populations in Taiwan. So we're including those in there so we can hopefully pinpoint where that source population was so we can understand how it's growing in its native environment, how it's interacting with other community members there, and see if that can help inform our control efforts in the invaded range. All right, next slide. All right, and last thing, we're just going to brush over really, really quickly. Now that it's here and it tends to grow in these very dense monocultures, we're trying to understand what the implications of that is for the soil microbiome, because in other invasive species, it's been documented that soil microbiome can either facilitate the invader in its new location, or the soil microbiome is changed enough that it has a negative impact on the native communities as well. This can occur through multiple mechanisms. One is through the top kind of path on the diagram through the leaf litter. So if you're introducing new organic matter, that could change the physical environments, that could also change the microbiome, or you could have a direct route through root exudates, so chemicals excreted by the invasive plant itself that could alter the soil microbial community. So we don't know exactly what mechanism could be occurring, so we're at the early stages of that. So next slide, please. Oops, other direction. Well, okay, so two routes we've looked at that. One, a common soil root association are arbuscular mycorrhizal fungi, or AMF fungi. So a large majority of root associations are found across terrestrial plants. So I had a student go out to see, do we see AMF associations with wavyleaf in this new location? It looks like a very simple process. This took her like a year and a half to get this optimized. But basically, we went to multiple sites, collected multiple individuals, and also collected individuals of co-occurring species. All right, next slide. So to cut to the chase, we do see that there are AMF fungi in native soils. That's the top row. Second row, we didn't see any AMF colonization in wavy-leaf basket grass. So it could be there. So we have, yes, positive controls, but it's not colonizing wavy-leaf basket grass. But the third row, we see some other fungal interactions going on with wavy-leaf roots. So not AMF, but there's something going on. Next slide. So we then took a more genomics-based approach to see how wavy leaf establishment affects the soil microbiome. This publication actually just came out. So we basically looked at paired invaded soils in the center there, kind of the weird green color, a nearby uninvaded patch, and then we looked at the rhizosphere, so the soil right next to the roots. So bulk area right next to the roots and uninvaded soil. We looked at multiple locations across Virginia and Maryland there. Next slide. So this was really messy and gross and everything, but main thing is that kind of salmony peach thing. That's the soil, that's the rhizosphere, the stuff right next to the roots. And you can see that that has higher levels of fungi on any of these 4 different measures. So basically, wavy leaf basket grass rhizosphere had more fungal diversity within sites than in uninvaded soils. So something's going on there. Next slide. And the other thing that's kind of weird, I said we sampled across 12 different sites. We had pine barrens, we had oak forest understory, so we had lots of different sites. But those salmony pink colors, that's a subset of all the other fungi that we saw across the sites. So it didn't matter if you're from the north, the south, different areas. If you were a wavy leaf right rhizosphere, it tended to be more homogeneous. So something's going on. That wavy leaf is changing that fungal community, or it's changing how it's interacting. So it does have some sort of an impact on the local community, but once you get outside the roots, it's kind of normalized. So being able to eradicate wavy leaf early, I think, is going to be helpful for our soil microbiome communities as well. All right, so that's a lot of stuff. We'll go to the next slide. I think we're about on our summary here. Oh, and there's some specific things that we're finding. We'll skip this slide. That's okay for sake of time. So moving forward, one of the things actually, which is really exciting with Pennsylvania's efforts right now, is we want to know how fast do we see these changes in soil microbiome. The sites we sampled, we wanted to make sure if there was an effect, we would see it. So we used populations that had been established for 10 years. You guys are at the range limit, so we have new populations. So what we'd like to do is follow up this study and see how quickly we see those changes. So if we can find sites that are established within the last 1 to 3 years and compare that to longest term established sites, how quickly do we see these changes? That's really, really cool. That's something that just knowing where these new sites are is going to be really helpful for that. Again, using the data with this big army of observers out here, we can confirm where those range edges are and try to understand where those invasion routes are going to be. And this is going to help us predict areas that are high risk for monitoring. So if we can't be everywhere all at once, we know where to target our efforts to try to find those new patches and then put those efforts in there. And then ultimately, maybe we could try to reconstruct the invasion history, identify those sources, and know if there is biocontrol or something that's going on in the native range that we might be able to apply to the invaded range as well. All right, next slide. All right, and again, at a larger level, we're at this really great stage that on the range limits, we might be able to eradicate and keep the populations from spreading. We can explore what those factors are that are influencing the successful establishment. Where is it spreading? So we might not be able to eradicate down here in Virginia, but we can kind of control those borders and keep the invasion from spreading even further. So wavy leaf, the information we're gathering here can be important for conservation and management for wavy leaf, but as these successful efforts are determined, we can use this for other invasive species and other situations that are occurring in other situations. All right, I think that's it. Let's try one more slide. All right, and again, my work here is not just me. I'm speaking on behalf of many, many people. We've got iMapInvasives up in the top corner, and so I'm really looking forward to keeping this interaction going. Again, feel free to reach out with questions. My email is down there in the bottom. All right. Thank you for sticking around.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Wu, and thank you to the rest of our guest speakers today. If anyone has questions for Ben Trilby or Dr. Wu, feel free to add them into the Q&A feature of the webinar. And I'm going to hop back over to the story map really quick so we can look at some of our FAQs and then get into whatever Q&As we have in the webinar. Alrighty, so frequently asked questions. Will this webinar be available as a recording? Yes, it will be available and shared with all registrants via email. It will also be posted on the PA iMapInvasives YouTube channel. How do I gain access to the online guide, Story Map, that highlights wavyleaf basketgrass and related information about iMapInvasives? So all registrants will receive an email with a link to the story map. If someone was not an event registrant but would like to access the story map, you can send an email request to myself or Amy Jewett at cgarda@paconserve.org or ajewett@paconserve.org. How can I contact the guest speakers from this webinar? All of the contact information for Ben, Trilby, and Carrie are listed here, so feel free to refer back to this section. Should I report a finding to iMapInvasives if I'm unsure of the species ID? Yes, participants should report all suspected wavyleaf basketgrass findings to iMapInvasives even if you're unsure of the species identification. All submissions will be expert verified after the event concludes. Following expert review, submissions with correct species IDs will be marked as confirmed in iMap. Incorrect IDs will be changed to the appropriate invasive species name or deleted if the species is deemed to be native or non-invasive. Should I search for a species in an area where it hasn't already been found? Yes. Participants should search for wavyleaf basketgrass in natural areas all across Pennsylvania. Documented occurrences in iMapInvasives indicate where the species has already been found. However, as an emerging invader, wavyleaf basketgrass populations may be present in other areas of the state that have not yet been documented. Do I need to take a photo of the species I observe? Yes, this is very important. Participants must include at least one photo of an observed species for each finding submitted to iMap. When possible, participants are encouraged to include up to 5 images per report, especially if using the online database to submit observations. Also, participants should not include photos that are stock images from the internet. All photos should be taken by the participant when each observation is made and not edited using AI. And a note here says that the iMap mobile app currently only allows 1 photo to be added per report, and the Survey 123 app allows for up to 3 photos to be added. If logging a not detected or absence finding, do I need to include a photo? So photos are not required for not detected submissions, but participants may choose to include one of the surveyed area in their submission. I don't see the Basketgrass Bonanza 2026 project as an option in my iMapInvasives mobile app. Where is it? So to have this project show up in your iMap mobile app, first ensure that you're a member of the project by requesting membership via the iMapInvasives online database. Then you can wait for an email from an iMap administrator letting you know that you're a project member. You can then log into the preferences section of your iMap mobile app, tap the Retrieve iMap buttons list, and add the project to your app. And linked down here is a video tutorial with more details. When can I expect my invasive species findings to be reviewed and verified by an expert? So expert verification of all data for the 2026 Basketgrass Bonanza will start at the beginning of September, with some submissions possibly being reviewed sooner. Am I able to view my submissions or submissions from others during the event? Yes, participants can view their submissions or submissions by others by using the Filter Records tool in the iMap online database. So the process is pretty similar for both. To view your own submissions, you'll go under the General tab of the Filter Records tool, activate the toggle for the filter on your record selection. For the project section, choose Basketgrass Bonanza, click Apply Filter, then turn on the presence, confirmed, unconfirmed, and not detected data layers. Then click Continue and zoom the map to view the data that appears. To view other people's submissions, you'll do the same process, except you won't click Filter on your records. And a note is that participant findings submitted to IMAP will be listed as unconfirmed prior to being expert reviewed. Should I report an invasive species finding that is not wavyleaf basketgrass? Yes, you can report any invasive species to IMAP during the Basketgrass Bonanza or anytime after. However, only wavyleaf basketgrass reports should be tagged to the Basketgrass Bonanza project. If I find wavyleaf basketgrass, should I remove it or manage it somehow? Before removing or managing a potential finding of wavyleaf, please submit a report to PA IMAP. An expert will review your observation and verify the species ID to ensure it is not a native lookalike. If your observation is confirmed as wavyleaf, an IMAP administrator will then forward it to the PA Department of Agriculture and the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources. From there, PDA and DCNR will contact you with the appropriate management actions. I'm a member of the PA iMapInvasives project on iNaturalist. Can I report my findings on there? So the PA IMAP project on iNaturalist and the PA IMAP database are actually two different entities. Though iNaturalist can be viewed in iMapInvasives, such as data from the last 5 years, we do ask that all data for the Basketgrass Bonanza be reported directly to iMapInvasives and not iNaturalist. Should I submit a public report in iMapInvasives to document my Basketgrass Bonanza findings? You should not submit your Basketgrass Bonanza findings as a public report. Please submit your observations using the online database, Classic mobile app, and or Survey 123 app, and make sure to tag your records to the correct project. And in case you're unfamiliar with the public report form, this was created for use as an additional mechanism for the public to submit invasive species findings, specifically by individuals that do not choose to register for a free IMAP account. What are potential emerging and established invasive species? So these terms are important markers of an invasive species status across the state. Their definitions are as follows. So potential invasive species are not yet present in Pennsylvania, but pose a future threat if or when introduced. Emerging invasive species, such as wavyleaf basketgrass, are present in 1/3 or less of Pennsylvania's counties, and established invasive species are present in more than 1/3 of the counties. If you want to learn more about the invader status of wavyleaf, you can refer to the distribution section of this story map. How do I know if my IMAP mobile app is up to date? The mobile app has recently been updated to version 3.0.5, which is currently available to Android and iOS users. If you already have the app installed, you may need to update it manually. To do this, go to your mobile device's app store, search for iMapInvasives Mobile, and see if an update button is available. To see the current version of your IMAP mobile app, open the app, select Help from the main menu, and view the version at the top of the page. I have a question about the Basketgrass Bonanza. Who do I contact? So all questions related to the Bonanza should be directed to either Amy, the senior coordinator for the PA IMAP program, or myself, Corinne, the PA IMAP information assistant, and our contact information is listed right here. So that is all I have for you today. Thank you all so much for taking the time to be here. I hope you learned something new about wavyleaf basketgrass and are feeling inspired to get outside and search for it, and of course report your findings to iMapInvasives. Now I'm going to hand it back over to Amy to see what kinds of questions we have in the Q&A.
Okay, great. Thank you, Corinne. So we did have several questions, and actually myself and our guest speakers have been very busy keeping up with those questions. So at this point, they actually are all answered. And just in the interest of time, I do want to wrap things up to respect everyone's time. And so if there are any additional questions that you have, either about the Basketgrass Bonanza event or about the species itself, there is contact information that Corinne shared in the story map, and we will be passing that out to all of the folks who registered for today's webinar. And so you will have that information if you'd like to follow up with either myself or Corinne or Ben Trilby or Dr. Carrie Wu. So thank you again to everyone for being here today. We appreciate your time and your interest, and good luck with the Bonanza. And with that, we'll wrap things up. So take care, everybody.